Calaroga Shark Media.
Hi, I'm Johnny Mac, and this is the normal daily comedy news for the morning on Thursday, September 25th. I'll continue to do bonus episodes as events warrant. Do these two things go together? A residency, and I'm going to push back on that word hard, a residency was announced for Las Vegas. It's Nikki Glaser and David Spade. Do those two artists go together? I feel like those are two, at least somewhat different audiences. Anyway, this is being spun as a residency. They're going to do 3 long holiday weekends together at Caesars in Vegas in 2026. But is that a residency? They're doing 2 shows on King Weekend, 2 shows Memorial Day, and 2 shows Labor Day. But is this a residency? They're doing January 16th and 17th. Then they're back May 22nd and 23rd. Then they're back September 4th and 5th. Are 2 dates, and maybe they'll do double shows. So are 4 shows on a weekend, and then there's nothing there for 5 months? Is that a residency, or are you just passing through town? Very strange. Matt Rife is very, very upset with Delta Airlines. We learned this from British tabloid The Mirror, who says Matt Rife was raging with Delta Airlines after claiming to have purchased a first-class seat. However, he was told at the last moment that a, quote, random aircraft reason meant the seat was no longer available. On Twitter, Matt Rife fumed, "Hey, Delta, F you to pieces. I hate your airline. 1 billion points on here, paid money for a first-class ticket just to lose my seat for a random aircraft reason? Go F yourself." It is unclear to me what actually happened. In the comments, one person wrote, "Sit with the commoners," and another said, "Time to get that private jet." This is fun from NJ.com. There was a Sebastian Maniscalco impersonation contest in Atlantic City. 7 or so impersonators got up. They did Sebastian's mannerisms, his facial expressions, his hand gestures, his signature line, "What's wrong with people?" The winner was Mark Maggi, or Maggi, M-A-G-G-I, and shocker, guess who showed up? Guess who's in town doing an actual residency in Atlantic City? Sebastian Maniscalco. He said of Mark the winner, "Very talented, and I thought I was looking into a mirror." Mark was decked out in a black leather jacket, black shirt, and black jeans, and a nearly identical haircut. He does, somewhat look like Sebastian, especially if you see him in the middle of a Sebastian contest. I'm not sure if I were walking down the street, I'd be like, "Is that Sebastian Maniscalco?" Like, he doesn't look that much like him. But in context, sure. Now, the winner said, "I don't have to do an impression. The scary part is I just act like this. I'm kind of waiting for my residual check from him. It was a privilege to be here. Yeah, it's pretty cool." Now, I noticed the winner has, I hadn't noticed before, Sebastian does kind of a distant stare when he's on stage that I hadn't noticed until now, but the winner did do that. Now, the material was, let's listen.
What's going on? Why are all these people here? You came to see impressions? I don't do impressions, okay? I have one guy in the back going, "You look like that on purpose?"
You know who is a good impressionist is that James Austin Johnson. He revealed on Instagram that he's editing a comedy special right now. That's all we know for now. Joe List has a documentary called Tom Dustin, Portrait of a Comedian. That's now available on Punch Up Live. List was talking to Forbes about the doc, but before we get to that part, he talked about, the good old days. All those guys, Greg Giraldo, Jim Norton, Colin Quinn, Bobby Kelly, they were all so funny. And Keith Robinson were all funny first, and density of jokes. Comics that don't have reverence for those guys or know those guys, I just don't think are as strong. I think those guys and Tough Crowd really certainly lay the foundation for what we all want to do and try to do. That's the quote-unquote New York comedy scene, as I call it. We've got the New York scene, we've got the Chicago scene, we've got the LA scene, we've got an Austin scene now, we've got an alt scene now, there's an Atlanta scene, there's all kinds of scenes. But Joe's talking about that New York GFY attitude style of comedy. Jim Norton said the first time he met Joe List, "He slapped my hand away and spit on me. Being respected is always a great feeling, but honestly, it won't make you necessarily like someone you wouldn't be inclined to like." People rooted for and respected Joe because he's completely genuine and unique, and the writing is incredible. He's a great comic. Him being such a likable person is just a bonus. Okay, Tom Dustin, Portrait of a Comedian is the Joe List doc. It is a portrait of veteran comedian and comedy club owner Tom Dustin and his decades-long friendship with Joe List, and Tom Dustin's struggles with depression and alcoholism. Joe List explained, "I think Tom is such a great character. I love him. I think he's hilarious. I'm interested in comedians that people just don't know are working comedians. There's so many people that think there's 50 comedians in the world, all the ones they know. And there are so many great comics making a great living, doing stand-up, living a sort of stand-up life that aren't in New York or L.A. and never went there. And Tom is such a great character, and it seemed like a great person to immortalize a film. He's got a million stories, and he's just a unique guy and character, and it ended up becoming very much about our friendship and a relationship. But I just thought my original idea was to have Tom telling all these great stories and show him doing stand-up and killing iguanas and running a club. It kind of became more of that, but he just seemed a perfect character. Mo Amer will have his third Netflix comedy special, this one called Wild World. It'll be out October 28th. Mo Amer is headed to the Dubai Comedy Festival, which is not the Riyadh Comedy Festival. There are two comedy festivals. I know this can get confusing if you're not hip to geography. Dubai is a major city in the United Arab Emirates. Mo Amer is one of the headlines of the Dubai Comedy Festival. We'll talk about the Riyadh Comedy Festival tomorrow. Andrew Santino told Variety about filming his recent special at the Pantages Theater in Minneapolis. Variety asked the drinking culture factor into the decision of where to film. Santino said, obviously, you want the audience to be a little loose. I just like it for me so I can go get hammered after the show. No, I like a city that doesn't take itself seriously when it comes to going out and having a good time. Minneapolis is a great eating and drinking town with good people. They've gone through a lot recently, unfortunately, and I'm proud to have shot it there. Variety said Bill Burr said he prefers when the audience is hostile. Do you enjoy that? I love this answer from Santino. He goes, no, Bill Burr's a lunatic. He's insane. I don't want to get in a gunfight with the audience. I just wanted to be comedy fans who are ready to let loose and disappear in the room with me. We keep the lights low so they can laugh at stuff that they shouldn't. Just have a good time. I'm not up there to battle them, but Bill's the best at it. That's why he loves it. Caleb Hearon did a lot of press for his special. Again, I still don't know how that's on HBO Max. It's a brand misfit. His mission on the special was to point out life's most absurd contradictions. He said, it makes you laugh even harder to know that the person who just said that insane, goofy thing about a thing a person might do to a man that a man might enjoy, that person also holds the serious opinion about politics. I think that's how we all move through the world, and the balance is the biggest part. The balance is everything. The balance between talking seriously about what's going on in the world, I think that's part of the job. First and foremost, the job is to make people laugh, but I also feel there's an additional responsibility that I feel to tell the truth as I see it and to talk about what's happening in our world and also to share about myself and how I arrived at the perspective that I have. And I was worried about this one. I'm glad, I guess this is happening. Marc Maron is scheduled on Celebrity Who Wants to Be a Millionaire tonight. Now, I was worried it would get bounced because the host of Celebrity Millionaire is Jimmy Kimmel. And you know, that guy was in all sorts of stress last week, but I assume that's going to air tonight. Why I'm excited about this is Marc Maron has announced that if he wins, his prize money will be donated to the Carolina Tiger Rescue in Pittsburgh. The Carolina Tiger Rescue on Instagram said his generous support will make a real impact for the tigers, big cats, and other rescues in our care. If you're down that way, Carolina Tiger Rescue is hosting a watch party at Pittsburgh's Havoc Brewing Company. Maron will be going head-to-head with Sarah Silverman. Now, Sarah Silverman used to be romantically involved with Jimmy Kimmel, and they seem to be friends. Kimmel's not going to cheat and help Sarah Silverman, or maybe he seriously wants to get back at his ex-girlfriend. He's going to help Marc Maron. So we'll have to watch Celebrity Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Now that we're not boycotting Disney anymore, we can watch the Mandalorian trailer, we can watch Monday Night Football, and we can watch Celebrity Who Wants to Be a Millionaire tonight at 8 Eastern without feeling guilty. On Gossip Corner, no song today. Adam Sandler and Kevin James visited Motor Oil Coffee in Albany, New York. A local said, I love that they're supporting local businesses and randomly hanging out at a coffee shop. Parade tells us that Adam Sandler was walking into a recent show. Somebody asked, what's going on? Sandler said, oh, fat as S-word. People found that funny. Next Mag was up at the Toronto Comedy Festival, which is in the notes today, believe it or not. They went to see James Adomian's alternative show with James Adomian. The alt show used to be hosted by Andy Kindler, and Next Mag tells us much of the material for the show, including his Kindler impression, feels like it might be a bit too much inside baseball for an average crowd. Luckily, this crowd understands inside baseball, with many of the city's most diehard comedy nerds in attendance. Toronto sketch favorite Chris Sandiford joined James as co-host partway through the opening. They engaged in a loose and somewhat disjointed back and forth on U.S. politics. Adomian switched between Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders impressions. Adomian did Bernie Sanders in one of my favorite comedy albums of the last 10 years. The Trump vs. Bernie album is fantastic. Sandiford did a RFK Jr. impression. And then a bunch of other people whose names that you probably don't know came out. But that thing got a really good review. All right, Johnny Mac remembers to talk about JFL Toronto. Look at me. 7 o'clock, Todd Barry. Love it already. Also at 7, Two Dykes and a Mic, Going Hog Wild. Alistair Ogden at 7. Chloe Radcliffe, 9 o'clock. And then a couple late shows. So if I were there, absolutely Todd Barry. And then I guess we'd go see Chloe. The Omaha Comedy Festival is back. It's its 13th year. 4 days of stand-up kicking off tonight. Amy Miller, Adam Clayton Holland, Colton Dunn, and Susie Barrett are the headliners. There will be more than 70 comedians from established names to up-and-comers. Megan Malone owns the Tiny House Bar, which is the headquarters for the festival, and says it's a chance for people to see big names alongside performers who are just starting to break through. Omaha audiences will have the opportunity to say, I saw them here first. The Nashville Comedy Festival, now that's not back until April. They announced their lineup in a long festival, April 9th through the 19th. That lineup includes Albert Brooks, David Spade, Heather McMahon, Kevin James, Morgan J., Sal Volcano, Kathy Griffin, Grace O'Malley, and more. The New York Comedy Festival unveiled the lineup for New York's Funniest Stand-Ups Showcase, November 12th at the venue at the Hard Rock in Times Square. New York's Funniest Stand-Up Showcase include Jeffrey Asmus, Gabby Bryan, Jason Choi, Rocky Dale Davis, Lev Fur, Antonio Kareem, Jay McBride, who's fantastic, Amber Singletary, Maddie Smith, and Joe Zimmerman. And that is your comedy news for today. Keep checking that feed. You know Johnny Mac. He'll put out an episode every 5 minutes if he can. See you soon. I don't even know when soon is, but I'll see you soon. Johnny Macbot here. He wound up recording with Gianmarco Soresi, and that episode will come out at noon today.